We are in an age of very intense globalization. There are so many big problems that are not going to be solved in our lifetime. I served in 4 presidential administrations. I've had the benefit of working for Henry Kissinger, so I have a lot of experience in foreign policy. I was an investment banker all over the world, so I have a good understanding of international finance. I try to bring these different worlds together. The big issues of the day are economic development, trade expansion, currencies, but on top of that has now been put a very tough overlay of geopolitics. I'm a communicator, and what I like to do is to frame an idea and explain it either orally or in writing in a way that somebody understands it and reacts to it. Although I am in an academic position now as the dean of a business school, I'm really not an academic. I've been at this school for almost a decade, but I arrived there with 25 years of really hands-on experience in both business and government. I have spoken to an enormous variety of audiences ranging from groups of CEOs to financial specialists to CIOs to World Affairs Councils. I've also spoken in virtually every major country, from Japan to Russia to India, China, and of course all over Europe and all over the United States. And I don't know any other way to present an idea other than to bring all this experience to bear.
In South Korea, a country where being out of work is considered a stigma, nearly 10,000 people a day were losing their jobs.
And maybe we push too hard, too fast, without understanding or without taking the time to realize that we have a lot of underpinnings in our economy that took 100 years to build. For 50 years, the U.S. fought the Cold War on certain principles, and one of them was we wanted to see capitalism and democracy spread. We could take a little more responsibility in terms of trying to shape the rules of the world economy.
I'm delighted to introduce my teammate, Jeffrey Garten, Dean of the Yale School of Management.
You're taking a very static position. Certainly there are different countries. Certainly there are different traditions. Certainly there are different economic positions. But the idea of the common currency is not for 1999. This is something for the next century. One CEO told me that a vision without execution is a hallucination. But I'll tell you, I wrote an article in Business Week saying that execution without a vision is just as bad. And you know, we are in a period now where most business leaders are focusing 99% on execution, as if it didn't matter what the goal was, so long as you executed well. And this balance is now out of whack. I can speak on a variety of topics, but normally they fall into one of 3 categories. I speak a lot about the global economy, the underlying trends. I make some projections, but I try to tie it to business strategies. In other words, I ask the question, what's going to happen in the global economy, and what are the implications for business leaders?
For his new book, The Mind of the CEO, Yale School of Management Dean Jeffrey Garten interviewed 40 chief executives. He spoke with everyone from Jack Welch of GE to Steve Case of AOL Time Warner to understand the most pressing management challenges facing CEOs today. Let me speak to me.
Well, it's very important to me to be contemporary, but not to be anecdotal. To take an issue that is on everybody's mind right now and to say, let's talk about how this might play out over the next year or two or longer. Or, you know, how are we going to deal with this? And then talk about the multiple challenges that are involved. That's what I do best.
The whole range of societal problems are not going to be addressed by the public sector the way they used to be. And what's more, when you look at the global economy, because that's certainly what we're living in, there are no governmental agencies in the middle. These big vacuums need to be filled. And I'm not advocating that business leaders fill them entirely, but they have the experience, as you say, they have the resources around them. And if they all sit back and say, it's somebody else's job to do, then I think we're headed for an era where all of the problems that we know so well are only going to get magnified. The thing that I like most about being in front of a group or in the middle of a group and having a discussion or making a presentation, I like the give and take. I like the act of communicating. I think you made some great points, and to me the most important thing that you said is that a country like ours has enormous international obligations. Even if I'm making a broader point, I'm generally keying on issues that are in the newspapers. I can see them light up when I am dealing with something that is on their minds right now. Now here's the irony. We would like to close our trade deficit, well, we would like to reduce it. And the only way we can do it is by having a weaker dollar. Because a weaker dollar would mean that our products would be cheaper, our exports would be more attractive, but our imports would be more expensive. And so the imports would gradually slow, exports would gradually increase, and we could at least stabilize the trade deficit. My career has been more or less a third in government, a third in investment banking, and pretty soon it'll be a third in the world of education. In the real world, nothing is pure. And a lot of people, I think, make huge mistakes by applying a narrow expertise to an issue that really is much more complicated. One of the reasons why I am enthusiastic about presenting my ideas is that I think we're at a very delicate point in history, and that I have the experience to look at this point from many different angles. And that unless you do look at it that way, you're really deceiving yourself into thinking that you're even starting with a reasonable view.